Good afternoon, traders. Welcome back. Today I'm coming to you from Gdansk in Poland with another motivational video in regards to how much money you need to make a living trading. And I know this is not the best and the most motivational topic ever, but I want to make this motivational in the sense that don't take this as something tough to achieve. Take this as something that you have to achieve and a goal that you will be empowered to achieve. That's really important. And it really doesn't matter where you start or what you have right now, but it matters what action you take and what things you put in place to achieve your goals, which is exactly what we'll talk about today. You'll be hearing from Steve Byrne, Richard Westman, Steve Patterson, and Houston Chung. Great traders who have a lot of advice to say on this. And you'll see the review kind of are different sometimes, but take what you need to take and use that to move forward. So let's get right away with those advice.
What people tend to do because they're so undercapitalized is that they tend to bet too big. They don't manage the risk. So they say, well, look, if I only risk 1% on a $5,000 account, I'm not going to make any money. I'm only gonna be risking $50. So I'm only going to be making, let's say, 50, 75, $100, and it's not worth it. So what I'll do is I'll risk 10%, and then I can make $1,000. But the problem is, if you risk 10% and you lose, now you've lost $1,000. Now you got to try and trade with $4,000 under management, and the problem is magnified. And you always have to assume the worst thing is going to happen in your trading right from the get-go at all times. So you assume that immediately upon starting to trade, you're going to experience a drawdown in equity, which is worse than the worst historical drawdown you experienced in your back test. So I think that, in order to do anything, even a small account, you really need $100,000. You could do it with less, but of course, if you have a drawdown, which you have to assume is going to happen right from the get-go, you could very quickly, be behind the 8 ball and dig yourself a hole that's going to be hard to get out of.
How do you decide to trade for yourself or for other people?
I've been doing this for 37 years right now, and I don't trade for myself, right? For a couple of reasons. First of all, it's so difficult. You better have a very large account. You better have $1 million, $500,000, not $50,000, $100,000. That ain't gonna cut it. You're not gonna be able to successfully sustain the life, because it's theoretically what's gonna happen. Let's say you even have a $100,000 account. Now let's say you have a good month, you make 5%, 10% on your money. So you just made $10,000. Well, guess what? What do you think's going to happen the next month when you only make $1,000? And what do you think's going to happen on the third month when you lose $500? So now you've had a profitable month of 5 to 10,000. You've made another 1,000, so you're, let's say, 6,000, and now you lost $500. So in 3 months, you've now brought in an income of $6,500. Give me a break. That's very, 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 very normal, right? Now, in the 4th month, if you're a good trader and you have a good edge, you might make $20,000, right? So it will average out to be, yes, I'm making $7,000 a month, but the way that you're going to get there is going to be so difficult. So what do? Right? Everybody's got mortgages, car payments, fiancés, trips, children's orthodontics, medical bills, all kinds of living expenses that we all need. It's so difficult. You better have $300,000 just in reserve and $200,000 to trade with. Because the ebbs and flows of the reality of income that comes into this business is just going to put too much pressure on you to do it any other way. So the only other answer is if you have another source of income. So if you have another source of income that you can live off of, then you can trade for yourself, because then you're not dependent on that paycheck at the end of every month, right? Which is super, super, super important.
Yeah, they just go all in. They have small accounts. they try to trade with a few $1,000s, and they just go all in every trade. And even worse, sometimes they'll go in the futures contracts and they don't understand the leverage involved, or they'll go into options contracts, and all they see is the upside. They don't see the downside. And or if they even trade the right sides, the commissions can be just too high of a percentage of their accounts. So they end up, they have a $700 account, they're doing $7 commissions. Each trade's a 1% drawdown. So that's a disaster. You just can't overcome that. You have to have the right size to begin with. And when you do have the right size, you can't go all in. You have to control. I try never lose more than 1% of my capital on any one trade if I'm wrong. And for them, they think that's too small. Well, it's like their account's too small. 1% should be a good amount for whatever you're trading.
Basically, I don't have a single live account. For example, I have a bigger account, and I managed to make let's say that I actually managed to bring the account from 50,000 to 64,000, and I made it in 3 to 4 months. So now I stopped trading on that account, because that is who I am. That is how I do. I don't trade. I don't want to give profits back to market. So actually that is, let's say, a little bit bigger account that I hold with other markets. It's not that big. It's 64, but it's okay, because I have also smaller accounts, a lot of smaller accounts that I want to build up. And I have my own project called Low to High Build Up, where I deposit, let's say, 500, 600, 700 euros, and then I build it up to 2,000, 3,000, I withdraw the money and so on. That is what I like to do, because it keeps me constantly in the trading mood. For those bigger accounts and that bigger account that I currently have, let's say that I made my profits and now I stopped trading it. But just to make sure, I also traded with hedge funds and with higher accounts. The biggest account that I traded with was 150,000 GBP pounds. And it was also, let's say, a bit of, it was, I guess, a bit of interesting to trade, because the money that you see with your trades it moves much, much higher than when you trade with retail accounts.
What do you think was the thing you had to put in place, and what kind of return did you want to have before leaving your job?
Sure. And yeah, so I think you said I don't think there are any general prescriptions for this, because a lot of this is going to be very individualized, right? So a lot of this is going to be about, your life, the lifestyle you want to keep, maybe your current life circumstances, and kind of what your goals are and your level of risk is in terms of a risk appetite. You have to have a level of consistency where you've shown that you can make money over time. At the same time, you also need to show that you're able to dig yourself out of a hole, right? So if you've only been trading for a year and you've never sustained any drawdown, then you don't really know what trading's about yet, right? Like eventually you will have a drawdown where you're going to go from your peak of your portfolio to, you'll lose 10, 20, 30%, whatever that number is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Do you have any experience actually digging yourself out of that and becoming profitable again? And if you've never done that, then you may not want to try that when it's your full-time job, right? Because that's going to be an experience that is a bit stressful, and you may want to have some backup income while you're learning that lesson. Sometimes, if you have faith, then that can carry you forward. And this is going to be, for certain people that may be enough. Others, if you're more analytical, then you're going to have to really crunch the numbers. I don't think there's any right or wrong way, because I've seen people succeed in both ways, and I've seen people fail in both ways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. But I think someone gave me this really good piece of advice, in the past, and they said, if you have a really, really big decision to make, you got to do a cost benefit analysis, right? Put all the pros and all the cons together, and then crunch the numbers. And once you got all the numbers together, throw it away. and then go with your gut.
Yeah, and believe in yourself for sure. Yeah.
Exactly, believe in yourself, because at the end of the day, that's just what's going to sustain you. And for me, I'm a balance between those two. Like, I need to see the numbers, and I need to have faith, but I'm kind of in the middle. But I really do believe that, in this game of trading, you really have to have a high degree of kind of mental fortitude and trust in yourself that you're going to be able to do, and that you're going to be able to succeed.
Alright, so I hope that video was useful for you. Hope you got some value. And don't forget to give a like if you enjoyed the video today, as always. If there's any saying or tip or quote from the video that you liked, comment below with it, put some quotes around it, then we'll make a compilation of advice like this so that other people can get these best advice too. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Ciao.